She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. We are stacked. Mega guests coming over the course of the next couple hours. Plenty to get to, but we start with last night in the WNBA where Caitlin Clark broke her own record for most 2010 games in WNBA history. She's now got 9 such games this season. There are times, Caroline, I think we got to remind everybody in the world. We got to step back and say there's a reason everybody talks about Caitlin Clark. We become so obsessed with everything off the court. Let's remind everybody, last night was a big reminder of why Caitlin Clark on the court is absolutely Caitlin Clark.
I mean, if you needed any sort of reminder, which if you needed a reminder, then like, where have you been? But if you needed any sort of reminder, last night was the reminder that you got that Caitlin Clark is just special. From what we got from her last night, 22 points, 4 of 8 from the 3-point line, 10 assists, a double-double for Caitlin Clark on the night. And oh yeah, by the way, Kelsey Mitchell with 28 points, who was a perfect, flawless 4 of 4 from 3. And Kelsey Mitchell also tacked on some pretty solid defense with 2 steals as well. I mean, those two at halftime were on track to absolutely shatter their record combined point total in a single game. I mean, those two specifically. And then you add on top of that the fact that you had 5 players put up double-digit points. And let's also point out, too, the Fever were playing the Liberty last night. And look, the Liberty, they've been a little bit banged up. Leonie Phoebus has not been back on the court. The Liberty have been in a little bit of a losing skid. The Liberty have some soul searching and some identity searching to do. But this is still the New York freaking Liberty. This is still Brianna Stewart, one of the best players, most underrated even players in the sport. Even with all the love that we give her, it's probably still not enough. Sabrina Ionescu, one of the best shooters in the sport. Like, this is still the New York Liberty that still have a championship ceiling. And those are the kind of numbers that this Fever team was putting up against them. So you had 5 players in double digits: Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Monique Billings, Sophie Cunningham. The list went on and on and on. The offensive firepower of this team, led by both Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, last night proved to me the perfect formula for how the Fever can win a championship. I'm not going to say that they are going to win a championship. I'm not going to say that they should be favorites to win a championship, because they shouldn't be. But last night was the perfect formula for how they can win one. Offensive firepower. Kelsey Mitchell doing a little bit of everything. Caitlin Clark, who cannot miss, and Kelsey Mitchell, who cannot miss from 3. Caitlin Clark moving the ball around so effectively and so smartly, getting production up and down the lineup. I mentioned Sophie Cunningham and Monique Billings. They both had double-digit points off the bench. So you're getting production up and down the lineup, and you're playing good enough defense. I know that New York still put up 92 points, but I mentioned the steals from Kelsey Mitchell. We had a couple of more steals tacked on to that. And I have never, whether it was on this show or on Hoops 360 with Cassandra Negley, new episode dropping today, I never said that the Fever need to have an elite defense. In fact, I have always said if the Fever defense is just middle of the road average, just be average, just make a couple of stops, create a few opportunities for your offense to get the ball back, that is their formula for winning a championship. Production up and down the lineup, just average defense, and can't miss offense.
I think last night was a shot to the league. I think last night was Indiana reminding everybody that while we're having all of these conversations, and while it feels like there's a tornado around absolutely everything that the Fever do right now, and while people want to look at this as a reason to rip this team apart, I asked a question yesterday that I think is relevant today. Is all of this controversy going to galvanize this locker room? We see galvanizing moments for great teams. In fact, remember last year when the Aces got absolutely destroyed, and that turned out to be the galvanizing moment after they took an epic loss, where suddenly the team woke up and they came out with the thunder of the gods, and they came out with a different level of focus, and they came out with a different level of fire that led them to a WNBA championship. What I was watching for last night, and what I think I'm watching for right now every single time the Fever step on the court, how do they look? How does it look like they're handling the you-know-what storm that is everywhere that they go right now? And what I saw last night was a focused team, What I saw last night was a team that was playing together. What I saw last night was a different level of energy. It feels like they found another gear. And when you are as good as they can be, and you see how great they can play through this moment, I think all of the naysayers might not realize that what they're doing is pouring gasoline on a fire that is ready to burn for a team that feels like they could burn the league down if they get hot at the right time. I watched Indiana last night, and to your point, Caroline, everything that went right for them, everything that you saw, and you say, yeah, that's the reason this is a championship caliber basketball team. But I also just felt like they were so locked in that it just felt like a different version of the Fever. Now, part of the reason they may have been locked in has to do with their coach. Plenty of people have plenty to say about Stephanie White. Well, she met with the media last night and uncorked an epic rant. The entire thing is worth watching, but she said in part, you see the quote here, the hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win. It won't win. We are united. We are connected. We will not be divided. Every day these women put their ass on the line. I stand by them. I will always stand by them. Everyone else can go to hell. That's a small part of what she said as she pounded the table. She looked at her notes to make sure that emotion didn't overtake and she didn't miss anything. And she hit on every cylinder. Every question that people are asking, she came out and I think loudly answered it with a resounding up yours, a resounding I love my players, and a resounding we are together, which was then backed up by the effort we saw on the court.
Good for Stephanie White for saying something so definitive, leaving zero room for interpretation, leaving zero gray area, and letting her emotions show in that moment. There are going to be a lot of people who don't like the messenger in this situation. And look, if you don't like Stephanie White, if you think Stephanie White should be fired, that's totally fine. That's your prerogative. I think Stephanie White should have stood up for Sophie Cunningham after the Dejanay Carrington foul. She's her coach. There are a lot of people who have criticized Stephanie White in the way that she communicates with Caitlin Clark, her usage of Caitlin Clark. All of those are fair and reasonable criticisms. So a lot of people might not like the messenger, but just listen to the message. The fear-mongering, the divisiveness, it's driving me crazy. It's driving all of us crazy. So many of us who are fans of the WNBA and just want to watch basketball, but every single day, it's some new indictment on society. It's some new socio-political cause that's using the WNBA in order to move forward. And it is tiring. For me as a fan and as somebody who covers this league, I can only imagine how exhausting it is for Stephanie White and for everybody else in this league. Players, coaches, front office members, so on and so forth. So good on her for saying something and putting her foot down. Good on the WNBPA for releasing a statement after all of the discourse that happened at the end of last week when they said we will not be used as a political pawn. Good on the Players Association, on Stephanie White, and anybody else who is willing to put a line in the sand and take a stand against this, because the league isn't going to do that. And good on Kathy Engelbert for, behind the scenes, putting a group together, people who have experience in these kind of situations and trying to come up with being proactive with taking a stance and putting bylaws, into the CBA, or just at least putting their heads together to figure out the best path forward for the league. Good on Kathy Engelbert for that, but there has been very little public statement or public lines drawn in the sand by the league. So if the league off isn't going to do it, if Kathy Engelbert is going to do it, good on Stephanie White for doing it and at least representing her team in that way.
This era of the WNBA, this season of the WNBA, which was supposed to be celebrated for the 30th anniversary of the league, has become the most divisive season we've seen in sports since Colin Kaepernick took a knee. There's no doubt about it. And it's enraged people in ways I've never seen all over the place. But I think the most important thing that we saw from Stephanie White yesterday is that she spoke to her locker room, she spoke to their culture, and she spoke her truth. Now, there are plenty of people on social media that immediately took it, tried to twist it, but part of or tried to just put their own spin on it. You may not see it as twisting it, fine. But what Stephanie White made clear is that she doesn't care about any of that. And what she made clear to her locker room is We don't have to care about any of that. If you turned around and you took that message and you turned it into whatever your truth is on her truth, she doesn't have to give a damn about that. All Stephanie White has to do is go out and win basketball games. She's not going to be
Mhm.
judged in the end, at the end of the season, by how she handled any of these microphone moments. She's going to be judged on whether or not Indiana wins. And if Indiana wins a bunch of games, that's ultimately all that matters. I commend Stephanie White for being able to keep her head on straight, given all of the yelling and screaming that is happening about everything that happens around this organization. Now, after the game, Caitlin met with the media. She said that it made her sick that fans booed Stephanie White in the pregame. Do you think that that
Mhm.
message came across?
No, I don't, honestly. If you're a Fever fan, if you're just, observer of the WNBA with an opinion, because it seems like everybody does, and you don't like Stephanie White, what Caitlin Clark said is not going to change your mind. And look, there are fair criticisms to be made about Stephanie White. I just mentioned, her relationship and maybe her publicly defending or not defending Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark in certain times. Stephanie White is supposed to be this defensive mastermind, defensive specialist, and that is clearly the weakness of this Fever team. So there are plenty of reasons why you can criticize Stephanie White, but I don't think that that's going to be changed, or people, wanting Stephanie White to be fired. I don't think it's going to be changed just by what Caitlin Clark said. But I want to just dig a little bit deeper, beyond just what Caitlin Clark said, but what we saw actually on the court when Caitlin Clark said, "I was sick to my stomach. We're going to rally behind her. We're going to support her no matter what." I think that was Caitlin Clark's way of saying, we do that to this entire locker room, whether it's Stephanie White, whether it's Sophie Cunningham in the face of criticism, whether it's Caitlin Clark herself, who was always at the center of some sort of conversation or controversy that she doesn't start. That they always rally around one another, that they're always going to support one another, and don't just take that sweet Disney Channel original movie kind of message just at its surface. Peel back the layers a little bit. Look at the team and the game and the performance that we saw last night against the New York Liberty. The Indiana Fever's first half was one of the most fun and exciting first halves of basketball that I've watched in such a long time, because they were in such a good rhythm. They were so explosive. So don't take my word for it. Don't take Caitlin Clark's word for it that they're going to support their coach no matter what. Take their performance on the court as their word for it, because they're showing us in real life, in action, how they're supporting each other in the face of controversy behind the scenes.
I think on this show, we've prided ourselves in our 1 year and 1 day of covering sports, that we focus on sports. We don't spend much time, if we can avoid it, talking about political issues on this channel. We keep everything clearly separated. If there's anything that we know from Caitlin's comments last night, she spoke passionately, but I also know nobody's listening, because at the end of the day, that's where we are on this conversation now. We've reached a spot. One of the reasons that I don't love talking about religion or politics with anybody is because I learned a long time ago, you're not going to change anyone's mind. If we want to go into a real discourse and a real conversation about any of the issues that are being discussed in the W right now, I guess I would ask, do you think anybody's listening, or is everybody just yelling? As long as we are just yelling and nobody's listening, nobody's changing anybody's mind. It doesn't matter what Stephanie White says. It doesn't matter what Caitlin Clark says. It doesn't matter what you and I say. It doesn't matter what the naysayers say. All anybody is doing right now when it comes to the W is screaming about issues. And when we reach the spot that people are only screaming and they aren't listening, there is no effective communication happening. Nobody's changing anybody's mind, and it truly becomes a waste of time. I respect Caitlin for coming out and making it clear who they're playing for, but I also acknowledge her saying that won't change anybody's opinion that has already made up their mind about how all of this is supposed to play out. One other update from the WNBA yesterday. We got one other big night last night. That came from Asia Wilson, absolutely on fire. The Aces halt the Mystics' win streak. 86-76 is the final in this one. 26 points, 13 boards, 6 blocks from the reigning MVP, who, by the way, is the current odds-on favorite for yet another one. Jackie Young, also 25 points in this one. Caroline, Vegas made that statement. Every time we want to leave Vegas for dead, it's like Michael Myers at the end of a Halloween movie. Not dead yet. Vegas is still right in this thing.
I am not leaving Vegas for dead. I made that mistake last year and I am not doing it again. So, I mean, Vegas is just a wagon, an unstoppable force. Asia Wilson is an unstoppable force. And I would just like to take a second to acknowledge what Asia Wilson does and what Asia Wilson is doing so consistently on any given night. It's the scoring, it's the ball movement, it's the defense. Asia Wilson, we are watching greatness unfold in front of our eyes. I do not want to take that for granted, although it may feel easy to do because she does these things all the time. So much so to the point that we're just accustomed to it and we're used to it. But I don't want to become desensitized to the fact that we are watching in front of us one of the greatest players to ever play in the WNBA, and she is not even 30 years old yet. She already has cemented her legacy, in my opinion, on the Mount Rushmore of the WNBA, and she still, hopefully, for all of us, has a lot of basketball left to be played. Last night was just another example of that.
Yeah, Asia, absolutely a superstar that we will never take for granted on this show. All right, from a defending champion to a league, about to try and see if they can have a defending champion of their own. The IFL championship, the national championship game is set. It's a doozy, and oh, are there some dramatic storylines. We'll tell you about it next.
And I had that moment there at the World Cup a few minutes before we went out and realized, oh my God, 30 plus years, all the amazing events that I've been able to be part of, including my beloved UFC, now culminates into this moment where it's the biggest sporting event and the biggest sports stage in the world. And I'm part of this? Wow.
Sharks down 10. Third down and 10 from the 19. Edwards steps up. Now he's in trouble. And Edwards sacked. Back at the 17. And once again, it's Devontae O'Malley. And flipped into the end zone. Touchdown. A thing of beauty. DeLaurent for Murray with a late pitch over the top, end over end. And a Pirates touchdown.
Darian Mensah was not the only player who left Duke that day to go to Miami. His best receiver, Cooper Barkate, went with him. He was the best receiver in the Ivy League at Harvard in 2024. He graduates from Harvard. He hops in the portal, goes to Duke, and has 1,100 receiving yards at Duke last year. Well, now he goes to Miami.
Harvard to Miami. How can you not love this sport right now? This is fantastic.
Still Barnes in there. No Jared Ware on this drive yet. Roberts against the blitz. Goes to the end zone for Keon Williams. Easy as you like. 16-yard touchdown.
There's Keon Williams. Tried to go to him in the last drive on that fourth down play to the end zone. Good defense by Orlando, but that time able to shake free to the corner.
The IFL National Championship game is set Sunday. Arizona versus Green Bay in Tucson. You can watch it exclusively on the Yahoo Sports Network. Let's go! Eric Van Beek, COO of the Indoor Football League, joins us now. Eric, all right, there's a million storylines in this one, but not the least of which Arizona's won this thing. Green Bay got to the championship game last year, couldn't quite get there. You think there's any advantage in this process for these championship games? You've got Coach Guy, who's won a lot of them, Green Bay, who's been there. Do you see an advantage in experience anywhere?
You know, at this point, probably not. I mean, Arizona won 2 years ago, and Kevin Geis won 7, I think. And obviously the Rattlers have been here many, many times. But over the last 3 years, Green Bay's been I guess you can call them a perennial powerhouse at this point. They're always one of the best teams in the league. They played in the championship less than a year ago, and we're about 2 inches from winning it, literally. So as far as like history is concerned and who has an advantage as far as the big moment, I'd say that's a draw.
The Rattlers were a 3 seed in the West going into the postseason. They go on the road and take down Vegas, the reigning champions, who they might have just a little bit of a rivalry with. And then they take down the number 1 overall seed in the West en route to the national championship game. So Arizona has absolutely battled through the postseason so far. What has been the key, in your opinion, to Arizona catching fire and finding themselves competing for another championship?
Well, not to take away from Max Myler, who's the quarterback, who's the MVP of the league last year, but really you gotta tip your cap to the defense. Arizona's defense has become the best in the league over the last 6 to 10 weeks. They have 39 interceptions on the year. I mean, that's incredible. They have one guy who's got 11, Yasin McKee, was just announced the defensive rookie of the year and possibly the defensive player of the year. And he's alongside some really, really good players. So it's all about defense. If you look at the scores from the conference championship game, they hold San Diego, who's one of the most consistent offenses in the league, to 37 points. Now, if you're not used to indoor football, you think 37 is a lot, but it's not in indoor football. That's actually a defensive something to brag about as far as indoor football is concerned. So this game is the prototypical immovable object and unstoppable force. You've got the offense of Green Bay, who has been the best in the league all year, Liam Thompson, possibly the MVP that has yet to be announced, going up against the defense who's playing better than the rest of the league has seen all year.
I mean, I keep going back to Kevin Guy, who told me before the first matchup against Vegas that the defense was going to be baptism by fire. And even throughout the course of that game, he's like, we're not going to be judged by what happens in this game. We're going to keep tinkering until we get it right. Is this the best coaching job we've seen from Kevin Guy?
You know, you have to put it up there, because it's one thing to take what you've got and manipulate it. He was manipulating the pieces. Like they got new guys, they brought in some guys, they got rid of some guys, and he said he was going to do that all year long. And about the mid-season point, he stopped doing that and really honed in on who he had, and as far as scheming and that stuff is concerned. And man, has it taken off. It has just been a defensive showdown every game. And again, to go up against the number 1 offense in the league, and you got the number 1 defense in the league. And not to say that the Arizona offense isn't good. They've got Max Myler and they've got weapons galore. But really, it's going to come down to, can Arizona stop Green Bay?
That's the fascinating question, and that's the matchup that's going to be so fun to watch. Unstoppable force versus immovable object in this one. You bring up Kevin Guy. He has already cemented his legacy in the indoor football league. I mean, all of the championships to his name, has never missed the postseason as long as he's been the head coach in Arizona, and he's been the head coach in Arizona for a very long time. But what does one more championship mean for his legacy?
Well, I'm not certainly going to be the one to define Kevin Guy's legacy. First of all, he'd probably yell at me if I tried. But that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Kevin Guy, is not only is he extremely talented coach, and he's proven that over and over and over, but he's got one of the more unique personalities in the league. Loves to play the villain a little bit, which every league needs. Especially when you've got 2 teams like this that are just filled with incredible players. We actually had both players, quarterbacks, on our Inside the IFL podcast yesterday. And the one thing you walk away from is that both of these guys are incredible dudes, and you hate the fact that one of them has to lose. But then you got Kevin Guy, who's not afraid to ruffle feathers. There he is, right there. and he's incredibly talented and so good at what he does. He's already considered possibly the best in the history of the league. Him and Curtis Riggs kind of up there. And Curtis is no longer coaching. So this is probably his opportunity to really stake his claim as the best coach in the history of indoor football.
I think when we talk legacies, we have to talk a little bit about Max here. Max Myler, for anyone that wasn't watching last year, led Green Bay to the Eastern Conference title championship game, as you mentioned, came inches short of an IFL championship. And then this offseason, he goes over to Arizona. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. At one point this season, he gets benched. He's got to get his way back to the starting lineup. Now he's playing really well. What has all of this meant for Max?
This is my favorite storyline. First of all, I just love Max Myler. I've gotten to know him, and he is the prototypical quarterback that you want leading your team. Not only is he talented, got the arm, he's got the legs, he's got the it factor. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. If they need a first down, if it's 4th down and goal, he's going to find the first down marker or the end zone. That's just what he does. Here you go, right there. There he is. And he's an amazing dude. So I love him as a person. Now his storyline, he just has one of the best seasons ever in the Indoor Football League last year, winning the MVP for Green Bay. Misses the win. If you didn't watch the game last year, just to sum it up really fast, there were 0 defensive stops in that entire game until the last play of the game. So that's how that game went. And that was a quarterback keeper to try to win the game, and he got stopped on about the 2-inch line. So, I mean, he told me yesterday he wakes up with cold sweats, dreaming that he has that ring on his finger. So obviously it means a lot to him that he didn't quite get it last year. And now to come back after the season, like you said, he had a little bit of a tumultuous season. He got benched a couple times, ended up earning the job back again. And now who's he going up against but his former team and a lot of his former friends and former coaches in Green Bay. So the storyline is beautiful and it kind of writes itself.
And no doubt it adds to the level of drama, to an already high level of drama that already exists, but you add in maybe a revenge factor from Max Meiler and his former team. But speaking of his former team, I have to give some love to Green Bay. I mean, Fitzy just mentioned it. They were in the national championship game last year, find themselves back there this year again. But it almost feels like with how great they've been this year, they've still been flying under the radar. What has the rest of the league been missing about how great this Green Bay team truly is?
Consistency doesn't always get noticed, right? Flashiness does. And we've had a lot of that. You guys have been a part of some of this. You saw the Vegas and Arizona controversies and the coaches pushing each other. And then you got Jacksonville, who went on a tear earlier in the year. Then you got Tulsa, who pulled off 10 wins in a row to get into the conference championship. Well, Green Bay, that entire time, has basically just been beating everybody. But again, consistency isn't exciting. It's just something you start to sort of get used to, which, you know, for a coach's perspective or a franchise perspective, that's exactly what you want. You don't want controversy. I heard you guys just talking about the WNBA. Green Bay is not worried about any type of controversy. They have the most consistent offense in the league. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They have possibly the best quarterback in the league and some of the best coaching staff in the league. Their offensive coordinator won assistant coach of the year for 2 years in a row. So he's probably not going to be assistant much longer. They are, from top to bottom, one of the most well-run franchises we have. And I'm extremely happy for them because they've built this fan base and this culture that they had long before they were good on the field. They've sold out that place for 10 years, and they've only finally been good on the field for the last 3 or 4, and which is hard to do. I mean, that's hard to do on any level. So as far as the franchise is concerned, they almost did it backwards, where they built the culture, they built the fan base, they built the excitement, and then the football followed. So it's really fun to see that happen and work out for them.
Yeah, that home field advantage for them at Resch is really incredible, and the atmosphere there is incredible. Obviously, these are two teams that deserve to be here. They played so well. Real quick, before we get you out of here, Eric, what's it mean? This is the culmination of a partnership year that's been huge for the IFL. The IFL's been around for 18 seasons, so certainly plenty of success. But for this game Sunday on Yahoo, what's it mean for the league?
This is a hard one for me to put into words. 2026 has been the most monumental, historic season we've ever had for multiple reasons. Every aspect of our league has been stepped up this year. You guys at Yahoo Sports Network and Fitz and Fenton, obviously, huge parts of that. So we're getting in front of more eyeballs, which creates a lot more interest in so many different positive ways. Speaking of, we're going to have some major announcements this weekend as part of Championship Weekend. I can't tell you any of them, but there's some big announcements coming up on Saturday at our media event, which will also be on Yahoo on Sunday as part of their pregame show leading up to the game on Sunday. And just some of the changes that are happening because of the changes we've made in 2026, 2027, as amazing as 26 was, 2027 is going to be even more earth-shattering for our league. And that's clear to me already. So the rocket ship is far from landing yet. We're still going up. And then as far as the game is concerned, we really couldn't have two better teams, more excitement, better talent, a better pinnacle to what has been our most historic season.
7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. You can check out the national championship games. Just wish I was there, Eric. Always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for a great year. We are so thankful for this partnership and what it's meant to be part of it.
We can't ignore the fact that you're both up for a bunch of awards, by the way, broadcaster awards. and you're going head to head in one category. So are you guys going to arm wrestle?
Now she'll
Little-
beat me in an arm wrestle. Actually, this is a good time. Post bypass, if we arm wrestle, she'll let me win. That's the only shot I got. Eric,
It's a bold
I'll take the win
assumption,
however I can get it.
Fitz.
We need to
thank
make
you
that
very much.
live somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. We're in on this. Eric Van Beek, man, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations on a great season. Can't wait to watch Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
It's great
Eric.
stuff from Eric, as always. And Sunday is going to be electric. All right, coming up next, officially QB1 has been named in Minnesota. We'll break it down.
As you get older, when you're young and you're in it, you're kind of like, this makes no sense. Like, these super intense practices make no sense. But you get a little older, you get away from it, you're like, kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of get the reason why you have to, or you feel like you have to do this. You have to build up some sort of like emotional and physical like callus, because you're going to go through it, in the season's so goddamn long and getting longer and so hard.
4th down and 4 for Jacksonville. Down a touchdown. 2 in motion for Edwards. 3-man, now 4-man rush. Launches end zone, far side, touchdown! Jaden Skoshak.
I mean, once again, rolling out, getting out of the pocket, avoiding the pressure, throwing on the run there, but great throw.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest adjustment is going to be playing what many perceive as better defenses?
Yeah, I think obviously just preparing for them and knowing what to expect going into it, and then obviously just protecting the football. I don't really know 100% what to expect, but I feel like, you know, going from not playing in high school to starting in college was a pretty big jump too. So, you know, just showing up and playing smart football and just doing my job every play.
Really, if you watch their motions, the motions are at different speed. That's what's been pretty fun.
Comes on and now with the quick pitch to the outside. That's not
Jinx.
fooling anybody as Terrell Davis picks him up and goes full body slam. Welcome to the WWE.
Spear, spear, spear. Oh, man. Take your pick. Was that Edge? Was that Goldberg? Was that Rhino?
Oh, that's Goldberg. That's Goldberg. Yeah, that's definitely Goldberg.
Now we just need to see a jackhammer after.
ESPN sources, the Vikings have named Kyler Murray their starting quarterback. We're going to get into that now. Tony Wiggins joins us. We're going to talk a little bit of Jags in a second. He's the host of Locked on Jags, but also Locked on Jaguars, I should say, but also Locked on NFL. So before we get to the Jags, let's start with this. Your reaction with J.J. McCarthy and now being the backup in Minnesota.
Well, the second I saw that in the offseason, Justin Jefferson apparently tweeted something or put it on IG, and then people, the IG investigator saw that he unfollowed JJ McCarthy. I say, oh yeah, that time is up, because nothing tells you who the quarterback is more than who the players follow in real life, and probably more so than who they don't follow in social media. So when I saw this, I was like, that's a group of people that when you look at the jobs, okay, Kevin O'Connell, you let go Sam Darnold goes somewhere else and wins the Super Bowl and then says, I'd rather be nowhere else than with these group of guys. You look at Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, and the things that he has going on in the NFL. And then the fact that they have good wide receivers, good offensive line, they've had running back production, pretty good defense, great defensive backs, but yet and still, they fell off, the cliff last year. So it tells me that they have to win. This whole quarterback whisperer thing that they had when they had Sam Darnold kind of went away, because now somebody else has whispered with Sam Darnold, and so that goes away. So there's pressure on him to win, and then the window for them to win might be closing up because some of their really, really good players are getting older. This is what I expected to happen when Kyler Murray got there. They're not paying him a whole bunch because of offset money that Arizona's still giving him. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me one bit.
I mean, J.J. McCarthy was the 10th overall pick, and he's going into year 3 and has only 10 games under his belt. And now here we are on August 11th, before the Vikings have even played a preseason game. Kyler Murray is already named the starter. So all of those things considered, what is J.J. McCarthy's future in the NFL?
as a backup. That's what it's going to be, a very athletic backup, unless he can somehow Daniel Jones himself into another position where you go to another team and then somebody else's trash becomes another team's treasure. You want to think that maybe there's a little bit of Geno Smith in him, like he could have a rebirth because of his arm strength. And that's why he was drafted where he was, because of his arm strength. And people love drafting dudes and kids. At one point, Sam Darnold, who I mentioned, was drafted because of his ability to throw off schedule. How about we start drafting people that know how to play on schedule? I think that is super, super important. So I think he's going to be a career backup. Maybe he gets a chance somewhere down the line. Look, I saw Rich Gannon go through his whole career as a journeyman and then all of a sudden end up in the Super Bowl. So anything could happen. But this is a situation where you see the talent evaluation of the NFL. Sometimes it could bite you. It did it here. It did it in Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson. You can't always try to reach, and I call it the Kobe Bryant effect. Remember, Kobe went 13th in the draft, and then after that, he was so good, everybody started drafting the number one high school player, number one overall, even if he wasn't as good. It's because no one wants to miss on the next big thing. Well, the Vikings, they picked him. And 3 picks later, I believe, Denver picked Bo Nix. And Bo Nix probably should have been in the Super Bowl last year. So you can sit here and try to go all day for looking for a guy's ceiling, but you need to start paying attention to a guy's floor, especially at the quarterback position. I don't think NFL teams are ruined by bad quarterback drafts. I believe NFL teams are ruined by bad development and not picking players that align with where you are as a franchise. And that's what happened in Minnesota.
That's well said by you. And let's take a look at a quarterback you know well, Trevor Lawrence. Let's get into some Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, we gave some dark horse MVP candidates yesterday. Caroline Fenton on this show said, Trevor Lawrence, dark horse MVP. What do you think? Buy in the tape or pump the brakes? Where are we?
No, I'm absolutely buying it. He finished top 5 in MVP voting last year. And that's why people are giving him that kind of recognition. But for the first time, he has also had real structure and what I call quarterback insulation. There were a lot of people, a lot of local media people, and even some fan groups that said, when you draft Trevor Lawrence, get him the ball and get out of the way. No one did that for Peyton Manning. No one did that for Aaron Rodgers. No one did that for Tom Brady. You know what they did? They built a wall around him and insulated him so that that talent could speak for itself. He didn't have that with Urban Meyer. He didn't have nothing with Urban. Nobody got anything from Urban Meyer being here except a whole bunch of bad PR. And then under Doug Peterson was a little bit old school and thought it was just like, I'm going to let the talent speak for itself and we'll put a bunch on him and let him go. That wasn't the answer either. So Liam Cohen comes in with this plan to give Trevor all of these answers pre-snap. And what it is instead of just letting this wildly talented person just go do what he wants to do, no, we're going to streamline it. And what we're going to do is we're going to give him all of these answers pre-snap, and that's where we're going to let the talent loose. Almost more like Troy Aikman than Brett Favre. The Angels are going to let him go wild. You're going to give him some things, give him some structure. And to be honest with you, this is some of the things that people criticized every quarterback that has ever played at Clemson. All of them, that they did not respond well when a whole bunch of things were put on them in layers because they played one way at Clemson. So this has been sort of a deconstructing of him, and it's been a deconstructing of the narrative that he's like the prince that was promised and all of this stuff. Man, look, that stuff that's marketing. That doesn't matter when you get between those lines on Saturday, on Sunday, and then the practice that you do all week. And for the most part, the Jaguars have not had a personnel department and a coaching staff that has been aligned. So how can your quarterback be aligned? And now I think when you get what seems like real organization and a real shot, now Trevor Lawrence has just simplified things, and he's gone out there to play football and ingratiate himself with his teammates. And I think it's going to reward the Jacksonville Jaguars, not just this year, but in the near future.
And you could tell in that back half of the season that something was just different about him. Something just clicked. And a big part of that, too, is the pieces that are around him. Now, Brian Thomas Jr. didn't have his best season last year, but he had over 1,000 yards in his rookie season. Jacoby Myers has played and seen a lot of football in this league. He's coming off of an 800-yard season. Parker Washington also with a quiet 800-yard receiving season last year. When you look at that trio of wide receivers that Trevor Lawrence has at his disposal, where would you rank them in the NFL?
That's a good question. I have them ranked as the best unit on the team. right ahead of the defensive back. So that's a real good iron sharpens iron situation for practice. But to answer your question, I think they're a top 10 unit. And that doesn't mean that they have one guy that carries them to be a top 10 unit. It means that they have a plethora of people. We didn't even mention the dude that's wide receiver 4, and that's Travis Hunter. So when you think about it, they have interchangeable parts. They have people like I've heard this in the NFL where you want your wide receiver room to look like a basketball team where you have a little bit of everything. But what they have is a whole bunch of guys that can do everything. So the interchangeable parts matter. They have toughness. The one thing about all of those guys is they're football junkies. And that is the thing that we have been talking about here, that when you read between the lines and then you really listen to them, the Jaguars never actually say that. But the way that it's been confirmed to me, I can tell you, somebody in a high authority heard me say this and they said, you're 100% right. What they do is they just get guys that have high floors, that love football, and you ain't got to motivate them. So now all you got to do is teach them. And these guys are chomping at the bit. It would be like if you asked 30-year-old Tony Wiggins, hey, man, I heard you like ribeyes, and I heard you're real good at eating ribeyes. So here's your job. You just got to show up and eat ribeyes all day. And I'm going to be like, first of all, you got to kick me out of here. All right. I'm going to be here early and make sure they're medium rare. And, give me a little something on the side, too, because that's what this is like. You got football starved people that their reward is their moment where you tell them to go take a nap or eat their vegetables first is all you're doing is stuffing football down their faces. So that's one thing that bodes well for this team. And you can see the way that they prepare and the way that they compete in practice.
I've never wanted a steak before 10 a.m. more than I do right now, Tony. That's what you're doing.
Here
To
we
me.
are.
I appreciate that, though. All right, you mentioned Travis Hunter's name, so now that we've said it, let's throw it into the ethos. What do you expect for usage from him? We've all seen the pictures. Looks like he bulked up. What do we expect his usage to be?
He absolutely did bulk up. Well, so far, his defensive snaps to offense, I think they're hanging around 65 to 68%. So he's going to be their starting corner. They don't do the numbers when it comes to these positions, but we're just, for the sake of this, going to call him CB1. That's what he is. And what I anticipate, I told Jared Bell from USA Today this, and last year, he said, I just don't know what this looks like, because none of us do. We have all been told that in order to be a great wide receiver, you need the reps. And in order to be a great DB, you need the reps. I remember the story vividly. They asked Jimmy Johnson, why don't you cut Michael Irvin? And this is when he was the coach. He opened the blinds and said, look, he was out there running around on the field 6 o'clock in the morning. So all these athletes have always told us about the reps, the reps, the reps. Well, maybe he can be as good as Derek Stingley as a corner, and maybe he can be as good as maybe a Chad Ochocinco at wide receiver. But that's only if, in my opinion, if he does those things full time. I don't know if you can do both of them sometime and be as good individually at those positions. However, I will tell you this. He is already the best wide receiver who can play corner and the best corner who can play wide receiver I have ever seen. He had 8 catches for 100 and some yards and a touchdown against the Rams. And he also defended Devontae Adams on a couple of plays where Devontae should have caught the ball, and he didn't because he was there. So you tell me anybody else who can do that in modern day football, I don't know. What it might look like is, instead of him having these great stats as an interceptor or these great stats as a wide receiver, he just may do things you've never seen. He literally might intercept the ball and get a pick six, and then catch a 9 route or a post route, make people miss, and then score a touchdown. He literally might do that. So this might be, he's great like Ricky Williams, or he's great like Reggie Bush, but the numbers don't say it. He's great like Percy Harvin, but if you look down at the paper and see his stats, it's not going to show up that way. It's almost going to end up being you had to be there. What's going to make it happen is if he can do these things and they win. That stats go out of the window if you do these things, and these things lead to winning. That tends to be what people remember more than anything else. If I say, what did Percy Harvin do in the NFL? Hey, he ran that kickoff back for Seattle in the Super Bowl. You're going to remember what he did. What did Odell Beckham? Look at Odell Beckham's stats. Nothing. If you think about it from a career, what did he do? He caught that one-handed ball on Monday Night Football. You see? So my thing is if you attach it to winning, these things get even bigger. And I think that's what's going to happen with him. People are going to realize how good he is, but looking down at that stat sheet may not tell you the story.
He's special. That is for certain. Quickly before we get you out of here, though, I want to zoom out and look at the rest of the division. How do you rank the hierarchy of the AFC South?
Well, Jaguars are first. Now I'm biased when I say that. I wanted to try to keep a straight face, but I had to smile. Of course, the Jaguars are first. Well, I say if they're the champions and they've improved or at least had a little bit of a chance to build on what they did last year, you have to put them first until somebody knocks them off. I will tell you, they have never made the playoffs 2 years in a row. So the last time this happened, it was the Miles Jack. He wasn't down in the AFC Championship game. Well, the last time people were this excited in 2017 against the Patriots. And now Tom Brady, thank you. He's finally come out and admit that Miles Jack was not down on that play when the Jaguars could have gone up by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but a little too late for that. But the next year they did make the playoffs. In 2 times in their first 5 years, they went to the AFC Championship game. Didn't make the playoffs. People don't know the Jaguars have been to 3 AFC Championship games in these 30 years. So we're hoping that doesn't happen again this year. A couple of years ago, they beat the Chargers in a comeback from 27-0, won that game, lost a close game to Kansas City, and then the next year did not make the playoffs again. So I think they're going to win the division. I think Houston is right there. I think for the first time in a while, the AFC South won't be considered the Mountain West of the NFL. You'll have 2 really, really good teams in the top 5 or 6. I think Tennessee's going to be a lot better under Robert Saleh because I like their roster. I like some of the things that they're doing. They have some young players that need to prove themselves. The Colts, that's another story because I have no idea, earthly idea. I have not figured out what the Colts have been doing for years. They were a little bit better than I thought they would be starting out last year, and then they fizzled off. They have some good players, but I just don't see the consistency top to bottom that you need, and they're dependent on a guy coming from an ACL injury and Daniel Jones, who was never that great before the ACL injury. So, I mean, the Achilles injury. So, yeah, I'm going to put the Colts fighting it out to not go into football purgatory and be at the bottom. I think the upstart Tennessee Titans will be a lot better, but I think it's a 2-team race between the Jaguars and the Texans.
You guys can listen to him on Locked On Jaguars, obviously Locked On NFL also. Tony, you got to come hang out with us as Trevor Lawrence ascends to MVP status. Got to come back and hang with us again, man. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for your time.
Ain't nothing. I appreciate you guys. Carolina, Jason, you guys do a great job, and I'm glad you guys had me on.
Thank you,
This is a
Tony.
blast, man.
Appreciate your
Great stuff
time.
from Tony. Going to be a good year for the Jags. The question is, can that man, Devon Achane, make it a good year for the Dolphins? We'll answer that next.
We're going to talk about Alan Graves, who looks like a hit of a draft prospect for the Toronto Raptors. Looks sensational, man.
I thought the shot was there. You talked about the percentage, but also most of the shots were off of the catch, above the break. Just a good sign in terms of his positioning.
And I think for the Toronto Raptors, a team that already has so much size, adding Alan Graves to this, it almost feels like some of those championship Raptors teams.
Derby on the ground, a high popper. Puka comes up to get it at the 10. Williams out of the 15, the 20. Puka Williams is free. Inside the 10, 5, touchdown! Puka Williams.
When you have one of the best returners in the league, when you have one of the fastest guys in the league, he has been on the verge of returning these over and over in this game. You know how dangerous he is. You've got to have a plan.
One of the best moments for me was when Alex Freeman scored that goal against Australia, and you see everybody celebrating, because I think that just goes to show like how stoked we were for someone like Alex Freeman to score that goal. Everyone celebrating in the corner after the game, everybody singing Country Roads. That for me in my career is the number one moment. Like everyone walking around the field, like I never felt so American as in that moment. Like Maurizio coming out after the game saying like, I wish I was American in that moment.
Walter Wilbon's on his left hip. White rolls right. White throws deep. White's got a man open. Jamon Street, touchdown, New Mexico. First career touchdown pass for LaJames White, and New Mexico strikes on first down.
Look at him go. Calls for it. Fakes the handoff. I mean, textbook QB1 stuff.
Pretty good throw.
Really good.
All right, so we've got Jeff Hafley out here speaking his truth about Devon Achane. For anyone that didn't see this, Jeff Hafley came out and said about him, after you touch the ball 40, 45 times, I'm going to have you pick up and carry you back to the locker room. He told Rich Eisen he's going to put this team on Devon Achane's back. The star running back going to be asked to carry that Dolphins offense. So the question is, Caroline, can he do it?
I put the team on my back, dude.
Greg Jennings. The thing is, though, like, Jeff Hafley says that, like, ha, 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 after you touch the ball 40 to 45 times a game. No, laughing, but very serious, because that is exactly what's going to happen in Miami. And look, whenever we say Greg Jennings puts the team on his back, we're usually...
I put the team on my back, dude.
Exactly. It's normally, like, hyperbolic, because any guy who we say, oh, he puts the team on his back, he still has help from the rest of the players on the roster. We talked about this with Patrick Mahomes yesterday, that last year was proof that even the supermaniest of supermen needs help around him, and he didn't have that last year in Kansas City. So there's always support. It's 11 players on your team on the field at any given moment. Devon Achane can't do it by himself, and he's going to have to. Malik Willis is not a proven starting quarterback in this league. Can it be? Sure. Has he proven that? No, he hasn't. Can you name a single receiver on this Dolphins roster? Because frankly, without checking, I don't know if I can. I don't think I can. And I'm somebody who covers the NFL on a daily basis. So can Devon Achane do it? I think he can carry a team. I don't think he can carry this team because it is him and literally nobody else. At least nobody else that's proven.
I mean, that's where, if I'm Devon Achane, look, first thing I want to do is get even more money. Like, no matter what, I want to get more money. If you're going to ride me that way, you're going to ride me out of my career. I want to get as much money as I possibly can. I looked it up here, and look, last year he had 238 rushing attempts. So 238 rushing attempts. He also had 85 targets. So you're talking about 315-ish touches. If he were to get 40 touches a game, you're talking in roughly the 600 range. So look, it's not actually going to be 40. The question is, can he carry the Dolphins? And the answer is yeah. He certainly can. He's one of the better running backs. Thank you, Greg Jennings. He's one of the better running backs in the league. I would say this, though, like, what's he carrying him to? 2 wins? Like, the Dolphins are going to suck. And look, Miami fans, you can at me. We can clip this off. We can play it at the end of the year. I hope I'm wrong. Because I'm a fan of a team that sucks, and I know how hard it is to watch your team when your team, let me say it one more time, sucks. The Dolphins are going to be terrible. The Dolphins have a better chance of the first pick in the NFL draft this year than they do of the playoffs, and Dolphins fans know that. Dolphins fans are already looking around saying, well, don't worry, we're just going to figure out our future. So, like, can he put the team on his back? Yeah, if you're only planning on 2 or 3 wins, Devon Achane's going to be able to deliver those for you. Let's take a look at some other players.
Just quickly, Fitzy, sorry.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Just for giggles. I did look up the Dolphins depth chart, and as it is currently constructed, the trio of the Dolphins starting receivers had a combined, between the 3 of them, 520 yards in the NFL last year.
Oh, well, then we don't need the running back help. Like, we're fine. Oh, good God. Like, that is a disaster way to, but fear not, they have a proven quarterback that's going to be able to stand in, and no, they don't have that either. Jeff Hafley's got his hands full this year. Sorry, Dolphins fans. So now we'll take a look at some other players that maybe could pull a Greg Jennings, like put the team on their back this season. Give me somebody
dude.
Thank you, Greg. Give me somebody on your
Thank you, Greg. I don't know if that man's name is Greg, but his name is Greg Jennings now. Justin Jefferson. Stop me if you've heard this one before, because we said that about Justin Jefferson last year with the uncertainty at the Vikings quarterback position, but he's going to have to do it yet again. At least you have more of a proven guy under center in Kyler Murray, who has at least played and seen and started football games in the National Football League, something that J.J. McCarthy cannot say. But if the Vikings want to be at least relevant in this division that is stacked and crowded at the top, Justin Jefferson is going to have to do a majority of the heavy lifting. If Kyler Murray is going to have the same kind of career renaissance in Minnesota that we saw Sam Darnold have in his time in Minnesota, even Daniel Jones in his time in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson is going to have to be a massive part of that. He's one of the best receivers in the National Football League, if not the best receiver in the National Football League. He's number one in my heart, at least. So he's going to have to carry his team like the best receiver in the National Football League.
Yeah, you're right about that, especially with the quarterback situation there. I'll give you somebody on my mind that's near and dear to my heart that has to carry the offense on his back. That'd be one Brock Bowers. Like, as much as I'm making fun of the Dolphins wide receiver room, I'm not sure it's a lot more proven. This is where Raiders fans will at me. I'm not sure it's a lot more proven in the Vegas locker room. Jalen Naylor last year had about 445 yards receiving. Trey Tucker had just under 700. So I guess that gives you a little bit more hope, but the depth in the wide receiver room is a joke beyond that. I don't know what to expect. There are some young players that are playing well in camp, but let's be honest. Brock Bowers is going to have to take this offense from a passing standpoint, put it on his back, and raise it up. It was such a tangible difference last year. There was such a difference when you watched Brock Bowers on the field versus when he wasn't because of injury, and you watched them try to throw the football. It was virtually impossible at times without him. That's going to be even tougher this year, I think, without Brock Bowers, should he miss any time. So I think when you look at the passing game specifically, fantasy football owners, you know this too. Go out and get you some Brock Bowers. If you can get Brock, don't view him as a tight end. View him as wide receiver one, because he is going to be the entire passing offense in Vegas.
I love that by you. And I'm excited to kind of see this breakout by Brock Bowers, because I think what the Raiders have done around Fernando Mendoza is textbook how you create a positive ecosystem for a young quarterback who you view as the future of your franchise. Does that mean Fernando Mendoza is going to be future league MVP and Super Bowl champion? No, I don't know that. But at least the Raiders are doing everything in their power to do that for Fernando Mendoza. Brock Bowers is a massive piece of that. He's not just a tight end. He's a chess piece. He's a total offensive weapon. So we're just taking, some homer picks for our first couple of picks. Me, Justin Jefferson, you, Brock Bowers. So I'll give you another one, Fitzy, quickly. Jonathan Taylor. I feel like he's been carrying the Colts largely for as long as he's been in Indianapolis, and that's only going to continue this season. Michael Pittman exits in free agency. Sure, Alec Pierce gets the bag, but, especially with Daniel Jones recovering from injury after last year, Jonathan Taylor is going to have to carry the brunt of this load.
No, I love that pick by you, especially as we try and figure out the acclimation of whatever Daniel Jones looks like as he comes back from injury for a Colts team that, frankly, I don't know what to expect from. Last year, as you know, I was very high on him. But this year, I look around at that and it's like, that's just a little too unpredictable for me to touch. I'll give you one more. How about this? How about a little bit of love for the other side of the ball? A little bit of love for the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go with how about Watt? TJ Watt going to be in there as somebody that has to put the team on his back. I'm putting Watt in there because we believe so much in that Steelers defense, and I don't know what to feel about that Steelers offense. We all know that as we get into this reclamation, whatever Aaron Rodgers looks like now, whatever that offense looks like now, the Steelers will be defined by their ability to stop people, especially in that division where I'm not sure they're as talented as everybody else. So I put TJ Watt as somebody that has to put the team on his back.
I put the team on my back, dude.
Thank you.
Showing some love to the defense. I love that pick by you, because there's not much on the Steelers offense that gives me a whole lot of positivity that they can carry the team on that side of the football. So TJ Watt is going to have to do it himself.
Yeah, love every ounce of that, and love the fact that preseason football is right here. I don't care what anybody says. You can't strip my joy out. I get to watch my favorite team play this week. All right, coming up next, from guys that put the team on their back to somebody that absolutely put a team on his back, a legend, a Hall of Famer, Terrell Davis joins us next.
And I had that moment there at the World Cup a few minutes before we went out and realized, oh my God, 30 plus years, all the amazing events that I've been able to be part of, including my beloved UFC, now culminates into this moment where it's the biggest sporting event and the biggest sports stage in the world. And I'm part of this? Wow.
Sharks down 10. Third down and 10 from the 19. Edwards steps up. Now he's in trouble. And Edwards sacked. Back at the 17. And once again, it's Devontae O'Malley. And flipped into the end zone. Touchdown. A thing of beauty. DeLaurent from Murray with a late pitch over the top, end over end, and a Pirates touchdown.
Darian Mensah was not the only player who left Duke that day to go to Miami. His best receiver, Cooper Barkate, went with him. He was the best receiver in the Ivy League at Harvard in 2024. He graduates from Harvard. He hops in the portal, goes to Duke, and has 1,100 receiving yards at Duke last year. Well, now he goes to Miami.
Harvard to Miami. How can you not love this sport right now? This is fantastic.
Still Barnes in there. No Jared Ware on this drive yet. Roberts against the blitz. Goes to the end zone for Keon Williams. Easy as you like. 16-yard touchdown.
There's Keon Williams. Tried to go to him in the last drive on that fourth down play to the end zone. Good defense by Orlando, but that time able to shake free to the corner.
Mike McDaniel told Amari Hampton that he reminds him of Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis. That is high praise. So I figure if we're going to have high praise that compares somebody to Terrell Davis, we should talk to TD about it. Let's bring in Hall of Famer, two-time Super Bowl champion Terrell Davis joining us on behalf of Teva Pharmaceuticals and their other TD campaign. We'll get into that in just a minute. Really excited to talk to you about that. But Terrell, former running back, Broncos running back, how's it feel to have a Chargers running back compared to your greatness?
I'm good with that. I don't know if you guys know, but I grew up in San Diego. So I grew up a Chargers fan for many years. And so, to have Mike McDaniel, who was he was a little ball boy here in Denver when I was here, to be able to make that comparison. It's cool. It's cool. It's always great when someone brings up the old man and brings up the name. So I'm cool with that.
And look, Marion Hampton has got some big shoes to fill if he's going to live up to that comparison. Of course, you were Super Bowl MVP in 1998, then the league MVP in the following season. We saw Kenneth Walker win Super Bowl MVP this past season. He was the first one to do it since you did it in 98. So what's it going to take for a running back to win league MVP in today's NFL?
Ooh, it's going to be a tough one. And the only reason is because quarterbacks are, they're front and center, and everything that teams are building are designed to, take advantage of the new rules, right? The passing game, they're paying receivers more money, quarterbacks are making a lot more money, but the coaches who stick with the philosophy that a run game and a defense wins championships, those coaches get rewarded. And Kenneth Walker, we saw him last year come through the playoffs at a really good run. And it really, you saw offensively, he was the key to them winning that Super Bowl. And so if coaches and GMs and, owners really look at how you win championships, it's still the old school way, man. It's still putting that ball on the ground, taking the air out of it. It's always a game that can travel no matter where you go, whether you're in wind, whether it's snow, whether it's rain, doesn't matter. The run game is one that travels.
Well, a few years ago, TD, they were trying to leave running backs for dead, right? It was a position nobody was going to pay anymore. But then we see Saquon and we see Derrick Henry and the continued career of some of the greats. Who are the running backs that you love to watch right now?
Yeah, I know you still got like Bijan Robinson. He's electrifying, right? You love watching him. Jahmyr Gibbs is one that is very exciting. I still like the Derrick Henrys, man. Like that Derrick Henry is what I enjoy watching just because of his style. He's a big man. You don't see a lot of guys with his frame and the way he's built with the speed that he has. I know he's getting up there in age, but his body of work since he was in high school, college, and the pros, it's been impressive. So I enjoy watching Derrick Henry. I enjoy watching Christian McCaffrey. Saquon's another one that I enjoy watching. I always tell people running backs are like hip hop artists. They're like rappers, right? They're all different. They have different styles, different flows. And the fact that they make their own kind of, they just look different. And so it's hard to compare one to the other. And it's always hard to say that this guy looks like, me, or looks like Marshall, or looks like, Barry Sanders, or whoever. Everybody's different, man. So I just enjoy what they bring to the table because it's mostly unique styles that you get a chance to see.
I mean, and these running backs are so special that they made the undervaluing of running backs so short-lived because they've all
We're
proved
paying
their
some.
value
We
to
just
their
paid a few.
respective
We just paid a few too.
That's what I'm
paid.
saying, yeah. They
Yeah,
are
and I don't know who.
Jahmyr Gibbs,
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson getting the bag, very, very well deserved. So anybody who thought that the running back was an undervalued asset was wrong there. You are obviously in Canton. After 7 years in the NFL, you made the most of your time, and you are now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. From what you have observed of today's NFL, what is the Pro Football Hall of Fame DNA that you're seeing in today's game?
I think it might be more longevity in today's game. And the reason I say that is back when I played, and even years before that, guys had to play for a long time financially because we weren't making that kind of money they're making today. So today they have options. You have guys who could play 5 or 6 years and make hundreds of millions of dollars. And to me, that's the true test of a Hall of Famer is, all right, does the money impact your effort, your level of effort on the field? And if you can get a guy that plays 12, 15 years, that in today's game, that means there's a desire, there's a want, there's a hunger, there's a scratch that can't be itched by anything else. And that's a Hall of Fame sort of, the DNA that you like to see. Because again, it's so easy to make the amount of money they make and just say, you know what, I have $100 million in the bank. I have generational wealth. I don't need to put my body through this again. And so if you make a decision to say, all right, even though I have this money and security, I still love this game. I have a passion for it, And so to me, that's the DNA that I look for in today's sport.
Well, I hesitate, TD, to ever say first ballot Hall of Famer because it's more complicated than that. We just saw Belichick not get in first ballot. But there are some big names on the ballot next year. We got Gronk, we got Ben, we got Adrian Peterson. Of those three, Gronk, Big Ben, Adrian Peterson, which one of them would you say is most deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer?
See, I hate that. I don't want to. I don't want to do it. Most deserving that's a hard phrase to say because they are all deserving. Now, because of the way the system works, there is a pecking order. There is a line. There is a way that you have to kind of wait your turn. But when you say Gronk, you say Adrian. Who was the third one?
Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, Big Ben. Wow. Gronk is a no. It's AP Gronk. Without a doubt, Ben. Yeah, that's a hard one, man. That's a hard one. That's a tough one. But it probably will be Gronk. He's probably will be the one. But man, that's a tough one. That's tough. AP's no joke, and so I do hope it's him though. I hope it's AP.
There's no wrong answer there. That's the difficult and tricky thing about, first ballot Hall of Famers. You played some of your career with John Elway, heard of him. Took him 15 seasons to win his first Super Bowl. And looking at today's game now, there are some of those elite level quarterbacks who haven't won their first one yet. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's been to one but didn't win it. Lamar Jackson has yet to get one. Who do you think is up next to win a Super Bowl of some of these great quarterbacks in the league right now?
Yeah, they've all got. You talked about it. They've gotten so close. Lamar, two-time league MVP. Josh has one. And they're all AFC quarterbacks, by the way. And I'm a Broncos guy, so I don't That's a tough one to put any three of those ahead of my guy Bo Nix. But I feel like I think it might be Lamar, man. I think Lamar has done so much. He's been, like I said, 2-time league MVP. He's matched up with the guy I just talked about, Derrick Henry. And they've gotten close, just like Buffalo's gotten close. I know Cincinnati's been there. Burrow has already been to a Super Bowl, but yeah, I'm gonna put my money on Lamar. That's what I'm gonna do.
TD, it's interesting to me because I always joke with Caroline. I'm the old guy on the show. You and I are similar in age, and I think about what it was like watching Elway at that era when there was a real conversation that happened all the time of, oh, he can't win the big one because he'd lost in Super Bowls. You come in and all of a sudden you guys win those Super Bowls. But I wonder a lot how, if we lived in the 24/7 news cycle now, the Twitter news cycle now, how today's world would have covered those Broncos teams that struggled to get over the hump. What was that like for you coming in to an organization that had lost Super Bowls and hadn't figured out how to get over the hump until you got there?
Yeah, I think you listen to it, you listen to it and it exists. You know that that Elway was he was the quarterback there for a long time, but we also knew that we weren't the same team as they had before, right? We knew that we were different, that we were not the teams that he had taken to Super Bowls. We were a complete team, really good running game, awesome defense. We had obviously John at quarterback. So we had a different level of confidence and I guess swagger, as you call it. And to your point, we didn't have to hear the noise every single second of every day through social media, through all these podcasts that are out there. So we were able to isolate ourselves a little bit and not hear it until we got into the postseason. Then we heard it a lot. But again, we knew that those teams were different than the teams that we were on, and we just felt like, hey, we can give John his first championship, and that's what we did. We felt like we could have not only won one, we thought we had about a good 3-year run where we could try to get those championships, and we ended up getting 2, which is not too bad.
Not too bad at all. I think that you would take that. You previously mentioned Bo Nix. What gives you confidence that Bo Nix can bring another Lombardi Trophy to Denver?
It's pretty it's simple. I love his. I love the way he competes. And when you're in a game, you're never out of a game, and that's how I measure quarterbacks. Is when you need him to make a play, when it's 2 minutes on the clock and we have to have a drive, who is the guy in that huddle? I've had the pleasure of being in the huddle with one of the greatest to ever do it, Elway. So I've seen what that's like. And I know that no matter if we were down by 2 touchdowns or down by a field goal, whatever it might be, we're probably going to win that game because of him. And I think Bo gives me that same feeling. And I've said that before. I've said I'm not trying to compare him to John because you can't do that right now. But that level, those traits, where he can just flip a switch when you need it, down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and here comes Bo. So I love that about him. So that's what gives me that. Obviously, Sean Payton, what he's been doing with the team, the defense, the confidence they have. I live in Denver, so I get a chance to see them a lot, and I think there's something special here. Every year they've gotten better. Obviously, if Bo doesn't get hurt, I think we can all assume that they would have made it to the Super Bowl. So yeah, if he can stay healthy, get this team back where we belong, and that's the big game. That's the big game. and I think I said this off air. I said, this is home of this year's Super Bowl champions, the Broncos.
Are you, TD? Are you at all surprised how quickly Sean Payton has gotten them on track?
A little bit. I think we all saw it as, okay, there'll be a building period. And then you look up and it's like, wow, man, it's like, he's already gotten this team to the AFC Championship game. The first year they're winning 10 games. And especially with a young quarterback. You don't expect that. You expect to see type, a kind of, growth, but you expect it to have a lot of, a lot of holes in it, and they didn't have that. So they've been riding fairly smoothly. But yeah, I thought it would come a little later, but it came sooner than I think anybody could expect. But in this sport, man, when you do that, you don't apologize for it. You ride it and you just build on it. And again, hopefully this is the year for them.
You are joining us on behalf of Teva Pharmaceuticals and their The Other TD campaign, which is raising awareness for tardive dyskinesia. Tell us a little bit about your work on this campaign.
Yeah, I'm partnering with Teva Pharmaceuticals to raise awareness for the other TD, as we call it. It's not football touchdowns, but tardive dyskinesia. And what it is a chronic movement disorder, and it's characterized by repetitive and uncontrollable movements. And it is caused by certain prescription mental health medications, such as antidepressants or antipsychotics. And the movements can appear to be twitching, shaking, or jerking. And it can be in the face, your hands, feet, or torso. And it can impact a person's ability to eat, talk, or walk. So if you or anyone you know are experiencing these symptoms, please visit theothertd.com or see your healthcare provider. I know we're in the sports world, so here's stats for you. TD, it impacts 1 in 4 people taking certain prescription mental health medications. So that's way too many people there. I have been blessed, to be around, to be advocating for, a health advocate. And a few weeks ago, I had a chance to be around an individual named Lori, who's living with TD, and her experience has been incredible. It's powerful, inspiring, and it really does reinforce my commitment to helping people, share their stories on TD. So again, if you or anybody you know are experiencing these symptoms, please visit theothertd.com or see your healthcare provider.
It's theothertd.com. TD, it's an honor to have you on. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. We've enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for all the great work you're doing for the world, but also thanks for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. You guys take it easy.
That's great stuff from Terrell Davis. That's great stuff from him. Check out theothertd.com. Coming up next, some breaking news you don't want to miss. We'll tell you about it.
As you get older, when you're young and you're in it, you're kind of like, this makes no sense. Like, these super intense practices make no sense. But you get a little older, you get away from it, you're like, kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of get the reason why you have to, or you feel like you have to do this. You have to build up some sort of like emotional and physical like callus, because you're going to go through it in a season so goddamn long and getting longer and so hard.
4th down and 4 for Jacksonville. Down a touchdown. 2 in motion for Edwards. 3-man, now 4-man rush. Launches end zone, far side, touchdown! Jaden Stoshak.
I mean, once again, rolling out, getting out of the pocket, avoiding the pressure, throwing on the run there, but great throw.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest adjustment is going to be playing what many perceive as better defenses?
Yeah, I think obviously just preparing for them and knowing what to expect going into it. And then obviously just protecting the football. I don't really know 100% what to expect, but I feel like, going from not playing in high school to starting in college was a pretty big jump too. So, just showing up and playing smart football and just doing my job every play.
Really, if you watch their motions, the motions are at different speed. That's what's been pretty fun.
Comes on and now with the quick pitch to the outside. That's not
Jinx.
fooling anybody as Hershot Davis picks him up and goes full body slam. Welcome to the WWE.
Spear, spear, spear. Oh, man. Take your pick. Was that Edge? Was that Goldberg? Was that Rhino?
Oh, that's Goldberg. That's Goldberg. Yeah, that's definitely Goldberg.
Now we just need to see a jackhammer after it.
We have breaking news here at Yahoo Sports Daily. Ramona Shelburne has tweeted it out. The Los Angeles Lakers are being sold to American businessman Josh Kushner, and Bob Iger for a record-breaking price over $12 billion, multiple sources have told ESPN. Kushner and Iger were involved in the expansion process in Vegas. This is important, but a stunning turn. They pivoted to make an aggressive offer to buy the Lakers from Mark Walter, who had purchased a controlling interest in the Buss family, from the Buss family, I should say, just last year. So in the last 18 months, one of the most incredibly premier brands in all of sports has been sold. We saw the Lakers sold 18 months ago for $10 billion. Now we turn around and see them sold now for $12 billion. Caroline, also, as I mentioned, important to note, Kushner and Iger were involved in the expansion process. They were one of many people bidding for the expansion team that is expected to be announced for Las Vegas. But now, instead of trying to be part of that process, they instead turn around and just, buy the Lakers.
So many different angles here. One, first of all, a 20% return on your investment in about a year is a pretty good one. Mark Walter even said that. He said an extraordinary investment. I would agree. He also said it was one of the greatest honors of his life to own the Lakers, which, is short-lived, but hey, it happened nonetheless. It's strange to see a professional sports team change ownership multiple times, even just in a person's lifetime. But to see a sports team, one of the most recognizable and biggest, strongest brands in sports globally, the Los Angeles Lakers, change ownership twice in just the span of a year is shocking. So there's the Lakers perspective of that, of what does this mean for the future of the Lakers, that we knew when ownership changed hands last year that things were going to change. And we saw that with Luka Doncic trade, moving on from LeBron James, that there was going to be kind of a change of leadership there. Now, what does this mean for the Los Angeles Lakers moving forward? What does this mean for the Buss family moving forward? Because when the Buss family sold the team last year to Mark Walter for $10 billion, which was a record-breaking sale for any professional sports team, there was an agreement that Jeannie Buss was still going to have a say. The Jeannie Buss was still going to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the team. What is her involvement in the team now? Does that continue now with the new ownership? The other side of it is the expansion team in Vegas. I've kind of viewed expansion in the NBA into Seattle and Las Vegas kind of inevitable, kind of imminent. Didn't know what the timeline was going to be, but the writing has been on the wall for a very long time. And when there's smoke, there's fire. So this might mean a halt for expansion into Vegas, whether that is, the league halting it itself, whether Vegas cannot support yet another professional sports team, whatever the reason for that might be, it's at least halted for now. So this is massive and stunning news that I did not expect to come down the pipe at all.
Well, and we have to wonder, a part of the expansion process to Seattle and Las Vegas has had a lot to do with picking the cities, but then figuring out the ownership groups. And Adam Silver made it very clear that they had several bids from different ownership groups that all have different concepts. There's ownership groups that want to share the arena, for example. The Golden Knights ownership group, Bill Foley, wants to be part of ownership of the NBA and has a plan for that. But there are other competing ownership bids that are coming in and saying, hey, we want to bid and build a new arena in a different part of the Strip. It's interesting to me that at least in this moment, they've looked around and said, hey, you know what? It's easier just to turn around and pay a bunch of money to buy the Lakers. But it's also stunning to just see the Lakers sold. This feels like a new era, the wild, wild west of sports ownership across all of the major sports. When we are in a world where we can see the Lakers sold twice in an 18-month period, each time for record money, it just reminds us that the more we talk about private equity and the more that we talk about ownership at these values, the more that we're going to see teams just moved like they are any other company. Certainly, to your point, we're used to ownership sticking around for generations because for generations, teams were owned by families and teams were owned by very wealthy families that had a succession plan. And whether that succession plan made sense or not, you understood that likely somebody buys a team, they're going to own it until they're old and figure out that they don't want to own a sports team anymore, at which point they'll either give it to their kids or they'll sell it. But you'd look at 20, 30, 40-year periods of what we perceive to be stable ownership. Now, if we are going to get into the spot where businesses are treated like businesses and sports are simply a new business, I see an owner that 18 months ago bought a team for $10 billion and now 18 months later sells it for a 20% increase or an extra $2 billion. Whatever the reason behind why he might choose to sell, selling for $2 billion in profit in 18 months. Feels like pretty good business to me. So what I look at here is I wonder if this opens up just an absolute avalanche of what we're going to see in modern sports. Are we going to see teams, once they become part of this level of value and this level of movement, are we going to see them flipping every few years, which creates new chaos and new questions for every single employee in the building?
Well, if you are a business person whose bottom line is turning a profit, and the bottom line is not keeping a team in a family or the connection that you might have to a team or the city or its fans or the people, then yeah, I absolutely think that we're going to start to see maybe some of these micro ownerships, microwave to ownerships that, hey, we come in, buy a team at a certain value, which is a record amount at 12 billion. It was a record amount at 10 billion last summer, which is absolutely astronomical. But if you're looking at the investment, just looking at a sports team as an investment, which I know is sometimes hard for us as sports fans to do because we are so emotionally invested into some of these teams. But if you're just looking at it as a financial investment, is there a better financial investment to make? Like I said, 20% increase in less than 18 months, a $2 billion profit in just over a year? I think any smart business person, smart, rich business person who can make these kind of investments would be, salivating at that kind of opportunity. So to your point, yes, I absolutely do think that this is maybe a new trend that we're seeing in the private equityization, if that's a word, of sports. I also think that you can look at this and say, I was actually having this conversation last night with my husband of at what point are our sports just going to hit a wall? Because year over year over year, and I'm saying financially, year over year, salary caps go up, viewership goes up, the cost for networks to buy certain packages for respective professional sports leagues or for college football games has gone up. Salaries have gone up. We've just seen exponentially year over year over year over the last several decades, the investment and amount of money that is being paid to athletes and to sports leagues and from networks go up. At what point do we just hit a wall, right? At some point, everything has to hit a wall. At some point, everything has to hit its ceiling. I was having that conversation literally last night, 12 hours ago. Now here we are with the Lakers having a 20% increase in value year over year. That just proves to me that that wall, that ceiling is not coming anytime soon, that the money being invested into sports, into broadcasting live sports, and into athletes that create value for their respective sports teams, it is not hitting a cap anytime soon.
You'll notice a familiar name to many people, Bob Iger, one of the two people that have now bought the Los Angeles Lakers. For anyone that's trying to figure out why you recognize that name, Bob Iger was the CEO of the Disney company from 2005 to 2020. And then again, from 2022 until just a few months ago in 2026, in an interim basis, he came in for the last 4 years. I have to wonder, whenever TV deals are done, what that means. At the end of the day, the relationship between Bob Iger and whoever is running Disney is going to be strong. The relationships between somebody like Bob Iger and Jimmy Pitaro, who currently runs ESPN, is strong. So at least the knowledge, the institutional knowledge from what it's like to negotiate is going to be interesting. So certainly Bob Iger brings some level of understanding of exactly what level ABC, Disney, ESPN is willing to go in negotiations into now direct ownership for the NBA. Certainly no longer a conflict of interest because while he stays on as senior advisor and a board member until the end of the year, he doesn't have a real say in what's going on. But it is interesting to me, Caroline, to think what that would mean for future negotiations when at least one of your owners sitting in the room has sat on the other side of the table having the direct negotiations and understands exactly what ESPN, ABC, and Disney will or won't be comfortable with. He's going to walk into negotiations with knowledge that most wouldn't have to exactly what their plans are for the next 5 to 10 years and all the inner workings of what they're trying to accomplish within these negotiations. So as media rights continue to be negotiated, Bob Iger being part of this, while not a conflict of interest, is at least an interesting nugget when we look at what it means for the future of the NBA negotiating with ABC, Disney, and ESPN.
Another important aspect to this to point out, Mark Walter, who just sold the Los Angeles Lakers and is also the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, suffered a stroke in 2024. And as you can see here in this tweet, says since then, some have questioned his fitness to continue leading his financial empire. So we don't know exactly the reason why Mark Walter, just 1 year removed from buying the Los Angeles Lakers, decided to flip it again. The obvious reason to me was the return to $1 billion that he pockets after buying the team for 10, but this may provide some insight as to why Mark Walter may be selling off some of his assets.
It is absolutely incredible and stunning news for so many of us as we continue to break down what it means. We have the Lakers being sold. That is your breaking news. We will get you updated on any other information that we get along the way throughout the course of the rest of the show. Stick with Yahoo Sports Daily all day as we continue to break this story down from every possible angle. But coming up next, we will get back to the NFL. Ryan Kalil joins us. We'll get his thoughts on the Panthers, USC, Hall of Famers, everything. We're hitting it all with Ryan.
We're going to talk about Alan Graves, who looks like a hit of a draft prospect for the Toronto Raptors. Looks sensational, man.
I thought the shot was there. You talked about the percentage, but also most of the shots were off of the catch above the break. Just a good sign in terms of his positioning.
And I think for the Toronto Raptors, a team that already has so much size, adding Alan Graves to this, it almost feels like some of those championship Raptors teams.
Derby on the ground, a high popper. Puka comes up to get it at the 10. Williams out over the 15 and the 20. Puka Williams is free. Inside the 10, 5, touchdown! Puka Williams.
When you have one of the best returners in the league, when you have one of the fastest guys in the league, he has been on the verge of returning these over and over in this game. You know how dangerous he is. You've got to have a plan.
One of the best moments for me was when Alex Freeman scored that goal against Australia, and you see everybody celebrating, because I think that just goes to show like how stoked we were for someone like Alex Freeman to score that goal. Everyone celebrating in the corner after the game, everybody singing Country Roads. That for me in my career is the number one moment. Like everyone walking around the field, like I never felt so American as in that moment. Like Maurizio coming out after the game saying like, I wish I was American in that moment.
Walter Wilbon's on his left hip. White rolls right. White throws deep. White's got a man open. Jamon Street. Touchdown, New Mexico. First career touchdown pass for LaJames White. And New Mexico strikes on first down.
Look at him go. Calls for it. Fakes the handoff. I mean, textbook QB1 stuff.
Pretty good throw.
Really good.
Cam Newton isn't eligible for the Hall of Fame until 2027, but he's already represented with this exhibit in Canton. We're going to be joined now by somebody who knows all about Cam and the Panthers. Ryan Kalil, one of the stars of a new documentary series, We Are Osos. Can't wait to hear more about that in just a little bit. You're joined in that documentary by Luke Kuechly, who just went into the Hall of Fame. We were talking about that off air. So should Cam be inducted next season? You see Cam as a first ballot guy?
Wow, right out the gate, you're going to throw that at me. I don't know. I still am trying to wrap my head around what sort of the criteria is. You know, obviously winning Super Bowls and a couple more All-Pros would have been helpful. But yeah, I think he's a game-changing, game-defining player who obviously we had that incredible run and that incredible era there. And I think the kind of caliber guys that go in should be the kind of guys that change the game. And he's definitely one that changed how a lot of defenses played. And now you're seeing a lot of offenses that look similar to that offense that we ran when we were all there together. So, yeah, I definitely think my guy should go.
He's also on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame next year. So I one of the greatest players to ever play the sport of college football. There is no doubt about that. But you yourself, you're a former offensive lineman. There are a couple of offensive linemen on the Pro Football Hall of Fame ballot, Andrew Whitworth, Alex Mack. What made both of these linemen, from your perspective as an offensive lineman, so exceptionally elite?
I mean, consistency, honestly, it's really hard, especially for offensive linemen and how you quantify who can go in and who can't. But these are guys who year in and year out always play tough. They're incredibly smart. They love the game. They take care of the game. And they're very, very incredible technicians too. Both of these guys. My guy Witt was always incredibly impressed with how well he took care of his body, and he probably could have kept playing much longer than when he decided to hang it up. But yeah, these guys have always been fun to watch, and each and every week you always try to study how they do things because you know it's going to be a very, very consistent performance.
All right, so speaking of consistency, that's what the Panthers are trying to find from Bryce Young. Big year 3 for him. What's he need to show in your mind to prove he can be the long-term answer for Carolina?
I think for him, he's got all the skill set that you need to win games, and you saw them really start to gel towards the end of last year. But you know what you look for in any position, but especially quarterback, is just limiting your mistakes. You know, turnovers will kill you. That's the biggest one, and so for them to keep putting faith behind him and to keep that thing as cohesive as possible, I think that you're just going to continue to see him grow in confidence and make less and less mistakes.
The Panthers are also dealing with a mounting list of injuries in training camp. I always call this time of year in the NFL, everything is going to be fine season for football fans. It's like, the quarterback threw a couple picks in practice. It'll be fine. Oh, starting left tackle is out with a season-ending injury. It'll be fine. It's easy to say that once, you haven't spotted the ball yet, but take me inside of a locker room. You're dealing with these injuries. Some guys are already out for the season. As a player, how do you respond to that?
It's hard to get caught up in all that stuff, or to not get caught up in all that stuff. I will say the best thing you can do as a player is you just have to focus on yourself and focus on your job, and you can't really you just really can't worry about that stuff. I personally had a similar situation where 2015 we lost a ton of guys in training camp, including our star receiver, and so the feeling in the locker room was, this is not good and this is not going to be great, and we ended up going 15-1. So you just never know. You also, sometimes injuries provide opportunities for other guys that may never have gotten it, and you always had coaches joke with us or threaten us with the story of Wally Pipp. And so for us, you just have to kind of really get yourself grounded and worry about yourself and what you can do for the team. But it's tough. It's tough when you lose guys and key pieces. And some of these guys, I think, are going to come back pretty quick. But yeah, it's not ideal. That's for sure.
So when you look at somebody like Laramie Tunsil, highest paid left tackle in the league coming into this year, suffers a torn tricep, going to keep him sidelined for a while. From an organizational standpoint for a team like Washington, now you got to worry about Jaden Daniels' blindside. We all know that. What adjustments can you make that will sort of help you bide your time until he can come back?
Well, there's lots of adjustments you can make. I think what happens is when you lose a key guy like that you feel strongly can win a lot of one-on-ones, it really frees up your offense to get more weapons out in the field. And so I would imagine they're going to probably have to get in some different formations to help out whoever's going to take over that spot, either bringing a tight end over there, or you can't quite get a back out quickly because he's got to scan backside now and help that blind side. So, honestly, it's not the end all, but if you can have that lockdown tackle, you can have the kind of line that can win a lot up front, can recognize blitzes, can get you to have more of your weapons out in the open. It makes it really hard for defenses.
Cade Mays is another offensive lineman with the Detroit, formerly with Carolina, actually, who will miss up to 10 weeks with a wrist injury. We know that it's not as simple as, oh, this guy's hurt, just plug another guy in. The offensive line is a unit. So as somebody who's played that position, what are the processes that you have to go through that makes it that much more difficult to overcome injury at that specific position, maybe versus a more individualistic position?
Yeah, it is. That's a really great point. It's one of the positions that you really are as good as the guys around you. I've had seasons where I played amazing and then a year after not as great, and it wasn't a drop off in my skill set or my talent. It was shuffling of different guards because it is almost like having a dance partner. Like you have to, how I would block with my right guard is different than how I would block with my left guard. And the game moves fast. You have games within the game. So there's all kinds of communication barriers, shorthand that you create over time, even with the quarterbacks too. So it's challenging to just kind of throw a guy in, especially mid-season when injuries happen. You need that time to develop, that time to kind of learn how each guy around you works and how you work with them. And so typically the teams that have the most consistency are the ones that keep that continuity within the line.
You worked with some of the best to ever play college football when you were at USC. Blocker for Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush. All right, let's go back to your college days. When I say USC story, what's the big one? What's the first moment that comes to your mind from your college days?
Just going from everybody hugging and shaking hands at your home and excited for you to be there to 1,000 assistant coaches Pete Carroll hired just screaming at us, telling us that we're not back home anymore and that this is going to be how it goes the rest of the time you're here. I don't think colleges do that anymore because of transfer portal, because of NIL. I've heard a lot of coaches kind of scared of players. And hopefully with some of the rule changes, that's settled down a little bit. But yeah, I just remember how intense those practices were. But one of Pete's goals was we were going to make practices harder than the games, and the games are going to be a cakewalk. And for the most part, that's how it was throughout those college years when we had those great teams.
And speaking of USC, we finally get this rivalry renewed. Don't have to wait 4 years for USC Notre Dame to come back, but at least we know that it will come back in 2030. From your perspective, as somebody who has played in this rivalry, what makes it so special?
I think just how long it's been going on for. I think the huge difference on the spectrum of universities and schools and styles and kinds of characters that have come out of both schools. But yeah, it's special. The Coliseum's a special place. South Bend's a special place. And it is one of the few games where you did really feel the tradition and history, whether it was from the crowd or just how they build it up leading up to that game and all the amazing rival games that you've seen over the years. So obviously as a longtime Trojan and young Catholic kid growing up, I'm very, very happy to see that rivalry stay.
All right, so you're part of the new documentary series, We Are Osos. Tell me about it. What's it been like to own a pro football team?
It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work. We almost paid just as much as Iger did for the Lakers, as you can imagine. But yeah, we took for granted how much is involved in not only trying to run a winning football team, but an entire organization and all the moving parts and player personnel and marketing and stadium venues and it's a ton, but it's been incredibly fulfilling and rewarding, and we just have been having a blast and fell in love with these guys down there. But it's funny, you guys have been talking about money in sports and what the ceiling for that looks like. And I think it's part of why we fell in love with this league. One, we had no idea that American football was so massive down in Mexico, but they've had a love affair with American football going back to the 20s, starting with college football, and they still play. These kids play the club level, they play in college, and then there's this league that's been around for about 10 years. And, you know, the fact that we didn't know about it was what brought us in and why we wanted to tell the story of these guys. But we just felt like in a world where, you know, sports now, there's so much money in it, and these guys are not making that much every week to still hang on and play the game and really play for the love of the game. There was just something romantic about that we wanted to tell that story. And while we were in the process of doing it, we just kind of fell in love with the idea of us maybe owning the team and running it as well as documenting it. but yeah, it's been fun, and these guys are really, really, really just great humans who are great football players and love the game, and we felt like their stories deserve to be told.
This is awesome, and I'm so looking forward to watching it. But you bring up the Lakers, Hill, and you're based in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you the question, the debate that we had yesterday. Which team in LA, the Dodgers going for a 3-peat, Lakers now switching hands in ownership, Rams going all in this past offseason, and I'll throw your USC Trojans on the list as well. Which is under the most pressure to win a championship this year?
Oh man. I mean, a couple of them. I think all of them. I don't know. Us California fans, we're finicky. I got to be honest with you. It's not enough. The Dodgers. It's so funny. I love when my buddies from across the states love to call and complain about the Dodgers and how much money the Dodgers spend. But they really are a fun team, and I got to say, a lot of the stress around them this year and their bullpen, I think they're going to be just fine. They are the kind of team that will kind of come out in their strides in the next couple months. So I'm not worried about the Dodgers. The Lakers will be interesting to watch this year. I think, yeah, probably my Trojans are the ones. They're probably the ones because I think everybody's tired of hearing about the Big Ten, at least over on this side of it. And I know that they've been doing a great job with Chad Bowen and all the recruiting he's been doing. We've been stacking this team, and I think we've been hearing about it for a couple of years. So I think a lot of the fans and alumni are wanting to see these guys just really kind of come out of their shell and start to play really consistent football. So probably my Trojans.
You guys can follow him on Twitter, X, at Ryan Kalil. Check out We Are Osos on YouTube. It's out there for you. Congratulations on ownership. That's a really cool venture for you to be a part of. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
Great
Ryan.
stuff from Ryan. Going to be a fun series to watch on YouTube. Coming up, shots fired at Aaron Rodgers. Can't imagine. We'll tell you about it.
And I had that moment there at the World Cup a few minutes before we went out and realized, oh my God, 30 plus years, all the amazing events that I've been able to be part of, including my beloved UFC, now culminates into this moment where it's the biggest sporting event and the biggest sports stage in the world. And I'm part of this? Wow.
Sharks down 10. Third down and 10 from the 19. Edwards steps up. Now he's in trouble. And Edwards sacked. Back at the 17. And once again, it's Devontae O'Malley. And flipped into the end zone. Touchdown. A thing of beauty. DeLaurent for Murray with a late pitch over the top, end over end. And a Pirates touchdown.
Darian Mensah was not the only player who left Duke that day to go to Miami. His best receiver, Cooper Barkate, went with him. He was the best receiver in the Ivy League at Harvard in 2024. He graduates from Harvard. He hops in the portal, goes to Duke, and has 1,100 receiving yards at Duke last year. Well, now he goes to Miami.
Harvard to Miami. How can you not love this sport right now? This is fantastic.
Still Barnes in there. No Jared Ware on this drive yet. Roberts against the blitz. Goes to the end zone for Keon Williams. Easy as you like. 16-yard touchdown.
There's Keon Williams. Tried to go to him in the last drive on that fourth down play to the end zone. Good defense by Orlando, but that time able to shake free to the corner.
Just talked with Cowboys EVP Stephen Jones about the new Quinnen Williams deal. Quote, he's the best player on the field whenever he's out there. The other thing is just what a man he is. He's a leader. We didn't have a lot of leadership on defense for the last couple of years. Caroline That is straight from Stephen Jones, not Jerry Jones. Stephen Jones, supposedly the more measured of the Joneses, giving us what feels
Doesn't
like
take
not
much.
so subtle shade at Micah. What are we looking at here?
It's definitely a shot at Micah, I think. I mean, look, he may be the more measured of the Joneses, but his last name is still Jones. And we know that every message that comes out from that family and that ownership and that organization is measured and it's calculated. And they know that their words carry weight. So I do think that that was Stephen Jones's way of saying, hey, look, Micah Parsons was not a leader on this team, and we're getting now what we didn't get from Micah, at least in a leadership standpoint. Now, does that mean that Quinnen Williams is going to be as disruptive as Micah Parsons was? Maybe, but maybe not. You know, leadership sounds great and all until you're 7-9-1 and miss the postseason. But also, let me just say for the record, your best player doesn't have to be, or your best player on one side of the ball doesn't have to be a leader. We see that a lot. Sometimes guys are great players, but not necessarily great leaders. Micah Parsons didn't have to be a great leader in Dallas, but I think what we got there from Stephen Jones is maybe a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of what was going on, or maybe what we didn't know about Micah and the Dallas Cowboys organization and their relationship.
I also think you can lead by just showing up and practicing your ass off every day. Like, you don't have to lead by being rah-rah in every capacity. To me, I don't understand what the Cowboys are doing anymore. Move on. You're the biggest brand in the NFL. You're one of the largest valued brands in all of sports. And you're still hung up on your ex. Your ex who's moved on. Your ex who's doing their own thing somewhere completely different. Like, at what point do the Cowboys just start to keep Micah Parsons' name out of their mouths and out of their minds in every possible way, every possible day? This feels to me like somebody that's constantly saying they're over their ex, but all they're doing is looking at their ex's Facebook. I don't understand it. You're better than that. At least you're supposed to be. All I ever do is hear about we're the Dallas Cowboys. We're this company. We're this brand. We're this football team. We have these expectations. And in the meantime, you're still out there trolling whatever you think your ex did or didn't do while you were in a relationship. I don't understand it. Be better. Do better. Rise above. Stop worrying about what Micah Parsons was or what Micah Parsons is or who Micah Parsons is going to be. Stop worrying about anybody that doesn't wear the star right now. I don't care if he did wear the star, and I don't care what he did or didn't do while he was there, because that's not going to affect or impact the Cowboys' ability to win a Super Bowl this year. And the only thing you're supposed to be focused on is winning a Super Bowl this year. So telling me what leadership you didn't have over the last few years, which might feel like trolling, feels like petty, and it feels small, and it feels like it's beneath somebody that is supposed to be better than that.
And to your point, and it's a great point, what is the point of Stephen Jones saying that? Because saying that accomplishes one of two things. Either you are trying to throw shade to Micah Parsons a year removed from trading him. To your point, move on from it. Right now, where things stand, the Dallas Cowboys won that trade. They got the picks. They got Caleb Downs. Micah Parsons tore his ACL and will be out for the beginning of the season. Right now, where it stands, if we're going to keep score, Dallas is winning. And it makes you look like a loser to continue bringing it up, even though you already won the trade. So you're either trying to throw shade to Micah, which makes you look small, or you're trying to hype up Quinnen Williams, make him feel good, make him think that, yeah, I am a leader on this team. Yeah, I am filling a hole that previously was unfilled on this organization. But look, Quinnen Williams has been in this league for long enough. He's going into year, 6? Year 7 in the National Football League? I don't think Quinnen Williams needs the pat on the back and the cookie and the feel good and the nice, raw sunshine and rainbows fluff that might come from you hyping him up to the media. I don't think that he needs that. I don't think Quinnen Williams is that kind of guy. He comes from the Nick Saban school of football is what matters and winning is what matters and nothing else does. I don't need personal accolades as long as we're winning kind of mentality. So I just don't really understand what Stephen Jones is trying to accomplish in saying that, other than pumping his own chest.
Yeah, and by the way, if he needed validation, he got it when he signed that contract. It's a lot of money. All right, let's keep the shade going. For this one, we'll hear directly from the source. All right, we got Packers head coach Matt LaFleur talking to the NFL Network about Jordan Love. Check out what he had to say.
watch his growth has been really a fun process. He's a great guy to work with every day. He's so consistent, so even-keeled, and I think that's why in those critical moments he can go out there and perform at a high level. He's got to be the best I've been around in terms of protections and adjustments, and rarely does he get out schemed.
Wow.
It's pretty remarkable.
So, got to be the best I've been around for protections and schemes. Rarely does he get out schemed as he gives all of that. Remembering that LaFleur was also around Aaron. Is this a little shade at Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think it's shade at Aaron Rodgers, honestly, because I think that the Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay marriage is so far removed that I don't think it's a direct shot at Aaron Rodgers. I just don't believe Matt LaFleur when he says that. Sorry, Matt LaFleur's been around a lot of really good quarterbacks. Aaron freaking Rodgers being one of them. He was with Matt Ryan in Atlanta and Matt Ryan's MVP season. He was with the Rams and Jared Goff before he went to Tennessee, I believe, and then to Green Bay. So he's been around a lot of really good quarterbacks. And you want to tell me that Jordan Love, who's never even won a division, is the best of them? He's the most impressive of them? In terms of processing, I just don't buy that. I don't believe that. So while I don't think Matt LaFleur said anything calculated and trying to throw shade at anybody else, I just don't believe what he's saying.
That's amazing. I think he's trying to hype up Jordan Love. I also think he has to understand that what he's done. I mean,
Jordan Love's not a rookie.
It feels like they've been trying to, from day one. From day one, it feels like everybody has been like, oh, Jordan Love, from day one. There's never been a moment where we were wait and see. Like, we've been wait and see with every other quarterback that comes out. But Jordan Love from day one feels like everyone has tried to anoint him and tell us how great he is. Like, I feel like I have spent years now being crammed with Jordan Love as an elite quarterback, even though the results have been very good. He's been very good, but I don't know that I would put him in the same category as the best of the best. But also, Caroline, I mean, LaFleur has to know that whether he intends to or not, when he says that, it's going to be seen some kind of way. Like, Aaron Rodgers is going to reference this on Pat McAfee's show, and we're going to have no choice but to watch it.
Of course.
Like, whether it's a slight or not, Aaron's going to take it as a slight, and Aaron's going to turn it into some more fuel of why the world hates Aaron Rodgers without acknowledging that his own words are any part of why there's any controversy around him. So I don't think he was necessarily trying to throw shade at Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
However, I do believe that Aaron Rodgers will take it and add it to his shade bank. And then as a result, we'll hear about it on Pat McAfee's show.
But he's going to act like he didn't hear it. He's going to act like it doesn't bother him. He's going to act like, oh, I've been so closed off to the rest of the world. I don't even know what anybody is saying about me. But we know damn well that there's a picture of Matt LaFleur like on Aaron Rodgers' bedroom wall. And he's going to add this to his list of people who have wronged him. And he's going to use this as fuel. He's going to come back and reference it in some post-game press conference this year. He's going to act like it doesn't bother him. But we know good and well that Aaron Rodgers wants to come off as some guy who's super chill and doesn't care what people say about him when he is the exact opposite.
Yeah, I don't hear the noise, but I react to the noise, and then I say things that create noise, but I don't hear any of the noise. It's a vicious cycle I can't figure out. What I can figure out, in a little bit of a joy and happiness, it's time for day 3 of the 29 days of fantasy Yahoo Sports, and Cameo are teaming up. You can now get a celebrity to announce your draft order from right inside the Yahoo Fantasy app. No random number generator, just you, your league, and a celebrity shout out to kick off the season right. Join the league now and you can access Cameo through Yahoo Fantasy Football. Get a celebrity to pick your fantasy draft order. This is an awesome feature. Caroline, what celebrity would you want to introduce our draft order? Like, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a great question. Ariana Grande just dropped a new album. I've been in a big Ariana Grande kick, but I will go with my tried and true, my love, my heart, my soul, Ed Orgeron.
No. I'm going to go with Steven Tyler just to confuse everybody on why Steven Tyler is announcing our draft order. Maybe Love an Elevator in the background. We're back at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Come hang out. Thanks for watching.